Are you feeling an underlying sense of unease? And can you become more clear by trusting your intuition? Welcome to the Free to Be Free portal. I'm Julia Ananda, your host, and I'm here with Gene Key's guide, Margaret Miller, who's going to be helping us to understand the wisdom in Gene Key 57 and the Sabian Symbols 17 through 21. Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Julia. Yes, this is a powerful gene key. Gene key 57, which the sun is moving through this week, is the shadow of unease, the gift of intuition, and the city of clarity. And as we feel into this gene key, one of the first things that I recognize and I want to just make sure that I talk about is that this is such a collective energy. This is sort of unease is the sensing or the feeling of all of the fear frequencies on the planet, right? And knowing that we have been sort of indoctrinated into these fear frequencies from the time that we're born and for many, many generations. Okay, so it's the unease in the I Ching, which where one of the places where the gene keys come from, the Chinese I Ching, the symbol for this is it's called the gentle wind. And it's a beautiful metaphor that I really wanted to bring in because when we're in the shadow frequency, the wind takes on sort of an adversarial kind of a feel to it. And you can, like we can be afraid of what's coming in the wind, or the wind can be, because the wind can be very destructive and very, really tear things apart or blow us away, right? And or blow our lives away, or how, all kinds of things can happen with that energy of the wind. But this is the gentle wind. And on the gentle wind come messages. And early in our evolution, this would have been having the sense or the awareness of danger coming on the wind and taking action on that. But now, in our current state of being on this planet, we are, we're sort of immersed in these fear frequencies, and it's just the background noise or the background uh, state of being for many of us. And so this is why the practices like heart-centered awareness, coming down, bringing our energy down out of our head, residing more and more often and more powerfully in our heart center, allowing our heart to open through gratitude and appreciation, and then recognizing that our senses, all of our senses, the five senses and the sixth sense and the many, multidimensional senses that we have operate from that place, right? And this is where our intuition comes from. This is where we're able to at least tap into our intuition. Our intuition is coming through our connection to source, right? And so this is how it's accessed. And one of the things that I loved as I was listening to this gene key, one of the things that Richard Rudd said about intuition is that it comes from the field of trust. So if there's this field of unease, right? There's like a sheath of unease around the planet. There's also this energy field of trust that we have to generate and that we do generate every time we trust our intuition. It's kind of a paradox because we have to trust our intuition and act upon our intuition in order for us to trust it more. And so we build this field of trust through, through the recognition of things like the universe has our back, or that everything that happens in our lives happens for us, not to us, right? And that we're not victims of our circumstances, that we can begin more and more. And when we're in our heart center, we do trust ourselves and we do trust life just more automatically from that heart-centered place. And so then our those beautiful senses, the clairaudience, the clairsentience, the clairvoyance, um, all of the clairs can begin to come online, and we can then act upon the messages that we receive in whatever way we receive them. And one of the important things to recognize also about intuition is that while the unease is a collective energy, intuition is a personal connection. And so, what is intuitively true for us and the intuitions that we act on is not necessarily for anyone else. And so there's has to be discernment there, right? If we're, you know, that we're listening to our own intuition and using it as a guidance in our own lives, and not necessarily needing anybody else to adhere to that same guidance or advice, that it's personal and it's for us. And as we do that, as we follow our own intuition and lead our lives through that more and more every day, it strengthens because that field of trust strengthens, and the heart opens more, and there's more energy for available, and there's a deeper sense of calm and a deeper sense of peace that allows us to hear that intuition more clearly, until finally we know it instantaneously, and there's no shadow of a doubt that this is what we should do and this is what we should act upon. And, so I really, I love that so much. I love that awareness so much, that as we trust it and act upon it. Because how many times have we in our lives heard it, but not acted on it, and then recognized it afterwards? And it was like, I knew that. I knew better. I knew what I was supposed to do here, and I didn't do it. And but as we be gentle with ourselves, because this is the gentle wind too, right? As we be gentle with ourselves and recognize that we're going to come in and out of that state of being, being in our heart center, we will come back out and be immersed in the unease, multiple times. And we have to be gentle with ourselves and allow ourselves to come back and, you know, recenter and realign and reconnect with this wisdom that's deep within our bodies, that's deep within our beings, deep within our hearts, and that connectedness to source that allows us to lead our lives through the guidance of spirit, of our own highest, awareness, our own highest self. And as we do that more and more, then we get closer and closer to that energy of clarity. And we like all of the cities, the city of clarity, descends upon us and also emanates from us only when we are not anymore identified with our individuality. And so this is, you know, but we get closer and closer to it, right? And ultimately that's where we're headed, is to this recognition of our unity, that we aren't separate, right? And that really is also the root of this shadow of unease, is the illusion of separation, right? And so as we dispel that illusion, we come into clarity. So I want to look at the Sabian symbols now and see if I can weave these in. So the first one is Sabian symbol Libra 17, and this is a retired sea captain, um, is watching the ships come in and go out. And it's really about gaining this objectivity and gaining this calm understanding through reflection, through, looking at our lives, looking at what has occurred, and how sometimes that retrospection is, our vision becomes 2020. Looking back, we see things more clearly and we see sort of the bigger picture. And but it's also just that energy of relaxing and having nothing pressing to do, and to allow ourselves to relax enough that we can drop into our hearts and allow the wisdom of all of our experiences to guide us into our next, whatever our next step is, our next phase is. And so that's a beautiful Sabian symbol. Libra 18 is two men placed under arrest. And the next couple of this Sabian symbol and the next one are, some of them are not so positive sounding, and you kind of wonder, oh gosh, what what could this mean, And but it's basically like looking at the consequences of our actions and recognizing that we are responsible for what occurs in our lives, and that sometimes our choices might have been following our intuition, and sometimes we may have been reacting from fear and reacting from a place that isn't in alignment with our highest good. And so there's consequences. There's things that happen when we don't listen and we aren't clear, right? And so it's just sort of a reminder of that, and that there's actually this constructive relationship that happens when we're able to recognize that our actions have consequences. This is It's just an important thing to always know. And so doesn't it make sense for us to take the time to take a pause and to come into our heart center before we act, before we, you know, respond in a way that isn't in alignment with our guidance or our intuition. So then Libra 19 is a gang of robbers in hiding. And the symbolism here is more, this gang of robbers is more like Robin Hood and his merry gang. Okay. So it's really this feeling of recognizing when things in the outer world are out of alignment, when there's an injustice or an imbalance that is so great that it cannot be resolved in any other way than the sort of the rebellious act or the really coming handling things in a way that might might go against the norms of society or whatever, that there are times when those kinds of energies are required. And so in this case, I would use that same sort of analogy where you have to know the difference, right? And in order to know the difference between something that's just, you know, a mild disturbance or something that's really truly out of alignment that requires a different kind of action. And we do that the same way by coming into our heart center and coming online with our greater senses, utilizing our all of the senses that are available to us and acting upon that intuition from this place of love. It's always the choice again between fear and love. Like we can be afraid of something that's happening in the world, or we can come into a balanced place, recognize that, yes, there is this thing and we don't have to be afraid of it, but there may be a response that we can make. And it may only be that we generate more love and we keep putting that as a counterbalance out into the world. Some of us are, activists, and some of us are acting in different ways. So it doesn't mean anything in particular other than that it needs to come from love. Otherwise, you're just contributing more fear to the soup that's already thick. So, Libra 20, a rabbi performing his duties. And this is really talking about the ability to draw on the power of an ancestral wisdom that is so clear to us, that we know so well, that we're able to act in accordance with universal laws or with the spiritual awareness that allows us to do uh, the correct thing for ourselves and for each other. And it's also has this energy of even as we're bringing in that ancestral wisdom, we have to act in accordance with what is happening now in the world and intuitively find the ways to apply that wisdom uh, in the modern world, in the ways that make sense now, rather than becoming rigid and trying to enact old ceremonies or old actions that really don't even have any bearing on what's happening now. And so again, having the clarity to discern. Then Libra 21, a Sunday crowd enjoying the beach. And this one is really about, the revitalization and the revivifying contact that nature provides us, right? And the ocean here is maybe even the ocean of consciousness, right? And so bringing more playfulness and bringing more joy and being gentle and um, gentle and joyful in our expressions, taking that Sunday, the day of the sun, that break, and allowing ourselves to really come into our heart center and be rejuvenated and revitalized. Like this is so important. You can't if you're if you're just bathed in unease and you're acting, reacting from anxiety, uh there's no way that you're going to be accessing the incredible wisdom that is coming through your intuitive faculties. So those are the Sabian symbols. And yeah, I guess the last thing that I would just say about this is that as we trust ourselves, as we learn how to trust ourselves, our lives unfold beautifully. If you've ever followed your intuition, which I'm sure everybody has at some point, I'm sure we've ignored it, and I'm sure that at some point you followed it. And isn't it beautiful when you do? Because there's all of these synchronicities that start to unfold and you start even looking for more synchronicities and life begins to flow much more easefully and much more gracefully as we do that. It doesn't mean that we don't encounter problems still, right? But we are able then to just move in a more natural rhythm with life.
I love the concept that you talked about the um, field of trust that we're not only receiving from in our intuition, but then um, helping to create as well, or helping to strengthen when we listen to our intuition or we open to our intuition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is opening to it, listening to it, and acting upon it. Like if there's something in there that has to be acted upon, to actually take that action, because that's when that trust is put to the test, right? And so it grows stronger and stronger as we follow our intuition.
This was beautiful. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe and tell us in the comments what your intuition is bringing you this week. Thank you.
Thank you.